Welcome to the Cooperative Extension's workshop on rangeland health and grass survey. As your agent, I'm the agent here at the Hopi Tribe. My name is Susan. I work for the whole region as well. So tonight's session will be taught by two of our extension specialists, Anita Thompson and Lyn Beard. They both are relatively new to our extension office in Arizona, but they've been doing a lot of work for a long time. And they'll tell you a little bit more about who they are. Pass it over to both Anita and Lyn. Take it away.
So my name is Anita Thompson. I am the Assistant Area Agent in Rangeland and Livestock for, thank you, Susan, for Navajo, Apache, and Northern Greenlee counties. And I do cover a lot of the livestock and the rangeland, as well as I help out with some of the gardening and the horticulture, and I basically do a lot of everything. So tonight, though, we're going to focus on rangeland and on grasslands. Lyn, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Lyn Beard. I am the livestock extension specialist for the state of Arizona. My office is in Tucson, but I serve the entire state. So basically, if you guys need anything and you get a hold of Susan, Susan can get a hold of me and I can be there. So my joke is I just need about a day's notice. I might move that to 2 days notice, but I'm more than happy to help you however I can. My background is mainly beef cattle. And so I've done a lot of research and extension work talking about, cattle grazing natural resources in the Western United States on rangelands. And so I'm super excited to talk to you guys tonight about some of that.
Perfect. All righty. I'm going to do economics in 20 minutes. So some of this is going to be like, wait, what? And so we can definitely talk about it more later. But the whole intent behind this particular thing is just to talk about how to look at the cost benefits of why rangeland sampling is important and as far as your livestock. Okay. So we're going to talk about what is a cost benefit analysis, and then some examples of some costs, some benefits, how we calculate it out, current cattle costs, when does the cost benefit analysis come into play during sampling? And so just some context is that there's definitely a dividing view between how rangeland is viewed. There are ranchers, especially out, I'm in Taylor and they're out by me, they throw their cows on the land, there's no forage and they have no gains. And so, I've been working with them to try to explain there's a reason why you don't have gains, weight gain on your cows and you're selling at the lowest possible price. And then there are dry feedlot where they basically are in 100% feed. And so they're maximizing their profits to an extent. And so having that middle ground of having a healthy rangeland actually is more cost effective and it gets you more money in your pocket. And so I'm kind of just going to explain how that works as far as from the economics. So cost benefit analysis is a process that evaluates the benefit of a project in relation to the cost. And the cost can be financial. It can be like a personal cost. There's a lot of cost can be a generalized statement. It doesn't have to just be money. It's also a way to examine your project's strengths and weaknesses. And it's also an economic analysis of the project in relation to how much you're wanting back for your economic return. And so there's just this little scale picture. But what you're looking at is, you want the benefits to outweigh the cost. And in this case, the benefits, there's more benefits. And that's what you want in raising your livestock. You want the best price at market. And then just here's some numbers so we're on the same page. And these are generic numbers. I mean, they're not, please don't take these as like what you should be using. They're just for math. So I'm assuming an excellent forage value that is 80 to 90% dry matter with 8% protein value. And then so for this particular one, I'm using steers. I'm not going to use a dry cow or lactating cow. So I'm looking at a steer under 800 pounds when I go into my example. So we're looking at 24 pounds per day to maintain weight. That does not mean put on weight. So we're looking at a maintenance of 24 pounds per day. And then we're looking at one large round hay bale is approximately 1,200 pounds, which is 60% of 1 ton. and that 1 bushel is equal to 56 pounds. And this will all come in later. I just want to make sure that, we're on the same page with calculations. So some examples of some costs. We're going to look at some current feed costs, supplements, vaccine, how much it would cost to kind of sample, and then cost for rangeland restoration. So I pulled this today. This is from actually Minnesota, but this is from the Pipestone Hay and Straw Auction. And so this week, the average price of a large round, good quality grass was around $155 per ton. And so we're going to go ahead and back that down to a round bale mathematically. So we're going to go down to, it's going to be about $93.22 for the bale, for one 1,200 pound bale. And so at this week's price, 1 pound of hay is 7 cents, which, okay, that's cool. 7 cents is good, right? We all want to be able to eat 1 pound of food for 7 cents. And so then now we're going to look at supplemental feed. So I'm looking at corn. So corn today at I think 9 o'clock this morning. 11:30 a.m. So yeah, 9:30 a.m. my time was $5.84 a bushel. And I pulled this from the 4-H, kind of like a 4-H guide to beef steers. And so if I have an 800 pound steer, I'm looking at 20 pounds of grain and 4 pounds of hay. I mean, these are just approximates, but I just wanted some numbers to work with. And then, so at today's prices, with 1 bushel equal 56 pounds, then 1 pound of corn is 10 cents a pound. And we don't actually say, hey, use this brand. This is just for calculation. Use whatever brand works for you. This is just what I pulled off Tractor Supply's website. So this is salt, and cows need approximately 35 to 45 grams per week. And then that breaks down to roughly 6.4 grams of salt per day. And that means that, and we calculate everything out based on this particular salt block, that there is 3,544 servings in each block. That's for 1 cow. So if you had 1 cow out there, this would last 3,544 cow licks, and that would equal to 0.002 cents. So, I mean, it's minimal. So salt is not your expense that you need to worry about. Supplement, or this is a mineral, excuse me. Same thing. This brand is just one that a rancher I worked with yesterday uses, so it just popped out. They need up to 3.52 ounces of free choice mineral per day. And that's going to be 15 cents per serving per cow per day. So these are all just some numbers that we're going to work with. Vaccines. These are some different vaccine schedules that you can be on. There's calves, heifers. This is cow bull, and this is off from a bulletin from Herd Health Vaccination Guide for Maine. Maine has some different, you cannot vaccine for particular diseases in Maine that you can here. So they're not listed, but for the most part, the point is that we're looking at $3 to $10 per calf unit for vaccine program. I would weigh on the higher than $10 per cow, because every ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I had an issue yesterday that we're still working through, that there was some vaccination issues, and they lost some animals. So having that extra $10 to even $15 per cow calf, that's going to save you in the long run for the losses. So I included that in the costs. And so that was going to be your livestock cost. There's just so much more. There's veterinary, there's vehicles, there's movement, there's fuel, there's all kinds of different things. Those are the basic costs. A cost to sample, like just to do a rangeland sample. It depends on your time invested and by whom. Your cattle rancher labor is not free. So even though you get paid after your cows are sold, you still have to consider your activity as a wage. It may be 1 penny per hour, but it's still important for you to factor that time into your cost benefit analysis. For this, we're going to use a current federal GS5 range conservationist which is about $30,000 per year, or $14 per hour. And then, so then if we're going to do a sample, then we're going to do roughly, we'll just do a small one, 40 total working hours to establish the project and 1 follow-up sample. So you're going to do roughly $560 for labor, $350 for generic sampling materials, $100 for fuel and relevant costs. And so your total budget is around $1,000. That's just a sample. And then rangeland restoration, I've done several. They can start at $1,000 per acre, which is just going to be your basic seeding, evaluation, and just making sure you have all your materials. And you're up to $20,000 per acre. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars if they're highly damaged and complex. And these are people that are wanting to take time, move it backwards, and rebuild what was once there, which ecologically is not something that I recommend, but there's people that feel that's a priority. Most rangeland restoration projects should be on the smaller side, but you're still looking at $1,000 to $5,000 per acre, depending on the intensity and what your goals are. So that was the costs, some of the costs that we're looking at. Benefits: you've got a happy cow, you've got increased grass health and nutrition values, you've increased cattle health and immunity to disease, your health and functioning of your rangelands, you have a lower reliance on supplemental hay and protein sources, better land stewardship values, and higher weight gains for market cattle. And that always translates to better prices at market, depending on the market time. So if the market's down, all bets are off. Current cattle auction prices, this is from Wilcox. You can pull Marana, you can pull whichever, it works for you. And I just pulled this as a reference point, as just an example. So if you were actually buying in steers to raise as opposed to raising your own, so you would probably go to the market and get them. But in this case, what I was looking at is if you were raising cattle to as feeders for other people, then you would look at kind of these two columns. You've got steers and heifers, but in this case, and prices are per 100 pounds of live weight in here. So if you were to take an average quality steer of 500 pounds to market, and you were to take a high quality steer that was around 700 pounds to market, so you're going to get around $640 for the average quality steer. You're going to get over $1,000 for the high quality steer. So you're going to get $365 more dollars to be able to produce a high quality steer. And so that's not one thing I just kind of wanted to illustrate the difference of, as far as, and that is the high price. I understand it's not the average price, but it is the high price. But if it's high quality, it goes for more at the auction, excuse me. So that's just to illustrate the difference between average quality and high quality at the auction. And then, so now we're going to kind of calculate it out. And so for simplicity, we're going to use a beef steer, and we have a target market weight of 1,200 pounds. So taking numbers from previous slides, our forage requirements are 24 pounds per day of moderate to high quality hay. Grain, if you're using it, you're looking about 4 pounds per day. I understand that I apparently had a dyslexic moment when I was reading this, and it's 20 pounds of grain and 4 pounds per hay. But we're going to pretend today is 4 pounds per day. Salt, you're looking at the 6.4 grams, and the mineral up to 32. So here's your costs per day for this steer that you want to raise. $1.68 per day for forage. And this is, remember, this is feedlot style. This is dry lot style. This is not going out on the range at all. This is 100% being fed. You're looking at 40 cents per day for grain, less than a penny for salt, and then 15% per mineral. Oops. Yes. So your per day feed cost for one steer is $2.32, which sounds like a bargain. But now we're going to look at our grow out period. This is looking at a slow grow out period, 18 months. People want 100 days, right? They want 90 days, 100 days, something like that. It's not going to really matter because you're going to have to feed them more food. So even if you do a slow grow out and you feed them less and you allow their body to acclimate faster and build up faster, versus if you feed them fast, and that's going to be a lot of corn as opposed to hay to get on that weight, you're still going to kind of have the same costs. So if you're going to pay $2.32 per steer per day for your steer, so then you're looking at $1,200 roughly for food, and then $10 for vaccines. So you're looking at $1,263 to raise a steer to 1,200 pounds. Does not include veterinary costs or other sort of costs. This is 100% grass and grain fed. Okay, so today I was looking at today's cattle prices, and again, markets.businessinsider.com has up to the minute information. So right now, cattle are really low. We had this cool spike where you could have just like sold everything and never had to worry again. Here we're back down again, and we're at $1.37 per pound. So if we sell our 1,200 pound steer, today's prices would be $1,644. So your steer would generate only $381 in profit. If there were no other input costs, and spoiler alert, there's always other input costs. They're going to hurt a leg. Someone's not going to calve right. There's always going to be that surprise. So you're looking at a tight profit margin. So then where does this cost benefit analysis come into play? I gave you all these numbers. So you don't actually have to spend $1,263 to grow a steer to market weight if you have your access to your grazing land, which you do. However, the rangeland must be capable of supporting the growth of the number of cows on the allotment in the pasture or grazing land. So a fully functional and healthy rangeland system can remove your hay costs, which is $1.68 per day, and just leave your supplement costs. So that's $297 for a full grow out. And that would net you an income of $1,347. Now, the key there is it has to be a fully functioning, they're getting all their needs met, their protein and their every need met, except for their except for their mineral and salt and vaccines. They're getting it from the rangeland. So the financial benefit is going to be to build up your rangeland to the best way they can be in order to maximize those profits. So then in order to receive the benefits, you need to factor in the cost of some of your actions. So while you're going to actually have to account for that sampling program in that. So your $1,200, or I can't remember, it's $1,300 or whatever, will be a little bit less at the beginning as you're building your sampling program, because that's actually going to come out of that chunk of money. And then after your sampling program is in and your rangelands are more stable, then you're enjoying that regular benefit of having that extra money coming from your cattle. So once you're able to have a functioning monitoring program and have a good handle on your rangeland health, you're then able to limit your inputs, and that maximizes your profits. So that's kind of how the cost benefit comes into play with managing your rangeland. You're maximizing your weight gain and your health of your cattle, and you're also maximizing your rangeland health. There are some inputs that you have to put in, sampling program, paying your people to do so, paying yourself, to do so. But in the meantime, then you're looking at higher profits. So final note, it's easier and cheaper to keep a rangeland healthy and functioning than it is to rebuild it and reestablish it. So you can maximize your future cattle profits when you're able to minimize your inputs. That was fast. I'm sorry. So what questions do you have? No problem. And just keep in mind there's grants. Like if you can get a good grant writer, or if you have a grant writer that is, is able to do it, there are grant opportunities where you can get assistance with feed and supplement and water hauling, water technology. You have a lot of opportunities for grants. It's just finding those grants and finding the timeline to fix them into your program. And I don't want to say it's free money, but it is very close to free money when it comes to your cost benefit. So the more you can get from grants and grant support, the more that leaves you additional money for rangeland restoration projects. And feed is right now, feed costs are going up. So having that extra money for feed, or, like you guys talked about, doing just some additional like cost building or some market building for your calves that you did this year. You maybe consider investing in some irrigated pasture land that's easier to access, where you can maybe, pull some feed, put in some hay, that it might help reduce your costs. That's community-based hay. There's a lot of different options you can look at to help take some of the stress off your rangelands while you're rebuilding them, to be able to keep your bottom line a little bit more stable. No one really raises cows for fun. I mean, they're so stressful. And I think, anyone who's been out there and had a bad calving, or, just bad days in general, knows that cattle ranchers are some of the hardest working people out there. They don't get a dime for what they do. So most of the time, until that calf is sold or that cow is sold. So focus on making sure that, you're including your value in those numbers, and especially with your animals. So that gives you more buy-in to why it's important to keep these, to keep your bottom line a little higher. And, I hope that's making sense. It is, and the first numbers that I showed you, where it was $300, that's probably gonna be negative. That is probably gonna be a complete loss, because when you're factoring in, there's people that I mean, trucks right now are expensive. Gas is extremely expensive. Everything's expensive right now, so that would actually be a loss, and that would probably be something that you have to look at subsidizing with the either the federal government or whatever routes are able. It unfortunately, figuring in the entire cost benefit calculation, we would need probably another 2 hours to go through every bullet point there is. That was just a simplistic version. You're never going to get rich, especially with all the inputs that we have. But the main driver and the main point is that if you want your bottom line to be in the positive, it is easier and better to maintain your rangelands, maintain what you have, than it is to rebuild or even to just dry lot feed right now. Correct. Yep. And it would be really nice if I could have just like borrowed you for the first 5 minutes and you said that, and I would be like done, because that is the take home message. But unfortunately the complexity is a little bit higher than that, just because of different management techniques, and there's a lot of different and competing viewpoints on what rangeland management is and how it should be carried out. So, I mean, it's a conversation to have, and it's a conversation to understand.
Thank you very much, Dr. Beard, Dr. Thompson. We appreciate you. Thanks, everyone. Good night.